got some HDMI ports in for the Series S, and I haven't actually had a chance to look at these. I was worried about there being 2 rows of pins, but actually I think it's just 1 row. Yeah, it's just 1 row in the back. Okay, this will be a lot easier than I was expecting. I don't remember what connectors I saw that had 2 rows of pins, but like, maybe it was the USB-C port, perhaps, on like a switch, but it had like a row of visible pins and then there was a row of pins inside, like, on like the underside of the connector that you can't visually get to. So I'm like, how in the hell am I gonna verify that those connections are actually good without purchasing like an actual like HDMI tester, which is just a board you can plug in that will just have a bunch of traces on it that I can just individually probe between the HDMI port and the motherboard. But this should be pretty easy, and this will be the first time I've done this. So I'm not gonna say it is gonna be easy, but at least on the surface it shouldn't be that bad. I need to get all my Torx bits back out. Because I was worried about that internal row of pins, but I think I'm lucking out. Maybe one day I'll get to whatever that connector was that I was thinking of. Now, memory serves, I did not clean this console. I guess I could look at my little note that I have on it. So when I strip it down, I'll just have to... Yeah, no, I didn't clean it. I think I cleaned the outer shell. I think that note's a little old. Let me check my digital records. The most important part is that I have the serial number on it. And I think I can even grab things like the motherboard serial number because I'm taking this thing fully apart. Here it is. So I only clean the outer white shell. Okay. And I remember that. And I didn't put the through-hole studs back. I forgot, but I mean, it doesn't matter because I needed to take it apart again anyway. T10. Actually, I should just yank everything out right now. I'm gonna have to yank everything out anyway. Yeah, it is quite apparent I didn't clean this. Looks like there's some type of residue on this back panel piece. I'll wipe off, I just have to spend the time to do so. there's all these front panel connectors and everything. Or all of these little PCBs up here. T8. Now, when I swapped a chip on this board, it was pretty easy. This motherboard is fairly receptive to heat. And doesn't siphon it away very easily. I was expecting this board to just be a behemoth when it came to, like, ground planes. And it still might be. I might be proven wrong when I begin heating up this HDMI port, but I'm fairly hopeful. This is hanging on a lot more aggressively than it usually does. There we go. Oh, because I think the motherboard was starting to fall out. See? Hopefully I didn't damage that connector. Maybe I should have waited to put these... or to take out the X-clamp screws until I unplugged all these little subboards, so I don't damage the connectors. I would kind of find it hard to believe that the motherboard would be able to damage those connectors with what little I did. I didn't throw this thing down a flight of stairs recently. I'll have to reform all this thermal putty when I get to it. I could almost keep the heatsink there, because that would almost act as like a thing to hold it down. Oh yeah, I didn't put the X-clamp on all the way because, I mean, I was expecting to put it on. That would give me a surface to sort of sit on. The heatsink shouldn't function as counterproductive, because then I won't have to try holding this board into my clamps. Because the HDMI port's right here. I think I might try that. Because then it would be elevated off the ground and it will allow the HDMI port to drop. I am worried about singeing these little, like, pads. Let me get rid of them. Grab some wax paper, and then I'll unstick them. I don't think the adhesive came with it. It's a little hard to tell. I'm just dribbling some rubbing alcohol on it as I very carefully grab and pull. And if the adhesive didn't come with it, I got double-sided tape that I can use. There we go. Have them oriented in the way that they came off. I'll put those in a different spot. They're just gonna get in my way. So this should be interesting. So what do we got to work with? We have 4 mounting pins, and then we have all of the data pins. Thankfully, there's a lot of different holes that sort of line everything up. So in theory, it should work pretty well. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much I should worry about these. I probably should worry about them because flux is gonna sort of make its way over there. So let me grab this little pad here. Okay. Anything else I need to worry about? I think we're good. It did leave its adhesive on that little square, I suppose. I don't know if it's... I'm actually kind of curious. I wonder how much of it is it for just grounding or just for spacing. My impression is it was for spacing. But I guess if it shorts the ground, that'll be my answer. Oh, it does. Look at that. So it is partly for grounding as well. Because you could almost see it as like it helping. It doesn't really offer too much resistance as far as like squish is concerned, but it might help balance out the putty on the expansion card so that it gets a little better cooling. I would think that thing was big enough that it wouldn't really matter, but... Alright, let's see how well this goes. Hopefully I don't make it worse. Now, if I understand HDMI ports swaps, you just heat it up and let it drop out on its own. I am going to be melting plastic because I am going to be hitting these like through-hole alignment pins that are plastic. Take my nozzle off my heat gun. I get a bigger area. Yeah, that should work really nicely. I'm not going to go 400. I kind of want to do some gentle heat first. I'll do 300. I I think it's going to take quite a bit of time to penetrate the board with heat. Because when I was doing that chip, I was heating the chip up directly, not heating it from the back. So this will be a bit of a different beast. Go up to 350. For the 430. $460. Ooh. Two, three. Uh, I mean, it came off nicely, but me trying to reattach it didn't work. Well, it came off nice and smoothly. I'm very pleased. Because I know that you can kind of hot swap these. Take out the old one while the board's still hot, plug in the new one, but it wasn't really working for me. Probably didn't help that I didn't pre-tin this. So I may have better luck if I do that. Probably inspect it. Ooh, that came off nice and clean. But if I pre-tin this HDMI port, I might be able to do what I was thinking. I still have my really tiny solder iron on. That might be okay. And these HDMI ports do take a lot of heat. I was expecting them to melt. And I'll deal with any bridges when I get to it. But I do kind of want to not have bridges right away. There we go. Tinning the port was almost more difficult than removing it. Alright. Time to make a mess. Get everything heated back up. And a combination of getting a really good firm grip on this port. If this doesn't work, it would probably be easier for me to solder suck out the holes and then just do it the old-fashioned way. Or do it the way that I'm familiar with. Kind of cheat. Come on, we're almost there. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. I feel kind of good about that. I want to let it cool down completely before I go doing anything too crazy. I can start getting rid of this flux though. I'll spend a lot more time trying to get this flux off. Let me grab my microscope, flip it over, and look at the pins. All I really want is for the pins to be lined up. I don't even care if they're not attached. That's easy enough for me to do later. Get my camera going. Oops. You know what? I think I'll keep it on this big blown up. The big blown up view. Flop. Looks a tiny bit misaligned from my angle. No, actually, it looks pretty good. Looks like the pins are not in. I don't think the port is sitting all the way in. I don't think that's gonna matter, though, fitment-wise. Let me try it really fast. Because I don't want to go through all the effort. Just on the off chance that the way the port is in, it's not going to line up with the hole on the HDMI port. Or for the shell. Maybe I might just be overreacting a little to an incredibly minor variation. Yeah, I mean, I think the X-clamp is keeping it pushed up, but it is very much in line with the other USB ports, so I'm happy with that. I think it is maybe a little rocked up in the back. Like when I stuck it in, it kind of levered out just a hair. But I mean, just going off my microscope, all I need to do is just get those pins down. I mean, even looking at it right now, that doesn't look bad at all. I'm just going to touch all those pins. I do want to get this heatsink off now, because now it is properly in the way. But I am very pleased with how that turned out. Very pleased. I know HDMI ports are not the biggest, are not the most difficult thing in the world, and I do know that. That goes to the BGA chips. Ugh. Those are irritating. Oh, and I do need to give this board a wipe down. It's got some dust on it, but again, that'll be something I'll do later. Give everything a good just wipe down. Like this board just has a lot of dust on it, so I just have to go over it with a vacuum. Alright, so let me get nice and focused in on these pins. Angle is going to be a little strange, but I think it should be okay. I mean, let me like really get a good look at them. Really good look at them. I mean, they're just like, yeah, it's like the port is just a tiny bit off. Just a tiny bit off, like just twisted just a smidge. That might be a problem here on these outer pins, but I might, just touching them with my iron, I should be able to get them to stick to the right pad. I'm going to have to be very careful. I don't even think I'm going to add additional add any additional solder. I'm just going to touch them as is. I'm going to blow this up because I need to watch this. Okay. And actually, even from this angle, it doesn't look that bad. Yeah, you can tell it's just like a little, it's just twisted, count like clockwise, like just a smidge. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It shouldn't, if it creates fitment issues, I'll have to address it, but I don't know how much of this I can actually solve without, I don't want to just keep injecting heat in unnecessarily. Let me just see what happens if I touch the... They are a little lifted. So I may have to kind of like force the pins down. I'm wondering if I should try and reflow them, or reflow the port again to try and get it a bit more snug. How much is it lifting up? Not much. Feels like they're sitting like a pin height above. Like I can put the end of my sewing needle underneath it. So when I'm grabbing it, it's just how do I get it to rock back without putting pressure in on the back? I can't exactly push it. I can put it on the edge of my mat and try and let gravity do the work. And then I can push it down. I kind of like that idea. This is going to be a very awkward angle. Not exactly sure where I can clamp this. Possibly right here. I'm going to want to watch this, which is going to be equally awkward. That's it right there. Alright, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. What I wanted to do is just I'm going to be sort of trying to push it down in the back. So then hopefully, it would be nice if it just sort of sucked down to the board. I'm afraid of it sort of tumbling out, but it shouldn't be. Or I shouldn't do that. Bring up the microscope view. I can also watch when the solder finally melts. I'm not so much worried about it twisted 90 degrees. I am worried about it being lifted in the back. to put a little bit of light pressure on the back of the port. Sort of referencing that outer pin, the very top. Me slipping off the port like that's not going to help me at all. When in doubt, more flux. It's these mounting pins which are giving me the most trouble. Oh, that pin finally solidified, or liquefied. Ooh. Pushing the board down. That looks good. Like, I can see very clear connections on all those pins. Okay, let me check the underside of the board. Make sure that I didn't roast anything. Other than some flux residue, make it a good close look on these pins while everything's cooling down. Try and wipe off some of this flux. Going at a weird angle. Ooh, baby, look at that. Almost looks somewhat professional. It's like I almost kind of know what I'm doing. Well, I think everything's still really, really hot, so I don't really want to do what I'm about to do, but I need to do a pin poke. There still feels like there's still quite a bit of a gap between the pins and the board, but they look a lot more lined up, so it must have shifted a little better into position when I heated it up. let me get it cleaned up. And make sure I try and get as much of this flux off. I'm gonna have to really spend some time taking flux off, but I'm worried about touching the board, so immediately with liquid. This heat sink's in the way. Oh, I guess when I say Eureka, it looks really good. I don't have a microscope image up. So that's what I'm talking about. I think those look really good. I'm gonna have to make sure that they're actually attached. I can't really tell that based off a 2D image, but I mean, I think that looks pretty darn good. Especially for my first HDMI port. I don't see any apparent bridging. These pins on the right-hand side are a little dodgy. I don't know if those are connected, but I'll determine that later. Just want to get it all nice and flushed. Okay. Now let me actually get this on a flat surface before I start poking these pins. I'm guessing there's like 2 or 3 on that far right-hand side that are not on correctly. I think the port itself is still lifted a little in the back. Yeah, just a smidge. And it's still rotated clockwise, so I don't think me reheating it actually did anything. I mean, worth a shot. I don't think it's going to cause any issue with just how little it's off. Oh, I don't think any of these are connected. Oh, that one on the end is. Looks can be deceiving. I'm wondering if I can sort of push the pin down to solder it. If I can like co-opt a bit of pushing and soldering. Or my big needle might be acting as a heat sink. Alright, well, to incorporate just a touch more solder. I might need a bigger iron. I'm not going to yield to that quite yet. I think I just need more heat. I didn't realize my iron was set at 290 of all temps. Goodness gracious, no wonder why I'm not getting anywhere here. Be foolish to think that that was all that was needed. Yeah, there's still... I mean, some of them are on. Not quite what I wanted to do there. Can't quite tell if that's a bridge or if that's just like a piece of flux. I think it was a bridge. Okay, let's try this now. That one's still not. That one's still not. Ironically, the ones that I thought were going to be kind of giving me trouble are the ones that are actually stuck on. I'm just very carefully adding just a little more solder every single time. And not that much. Holy moly. I didn't think I grabbed that much on my iron. I need to suck that off. Heyo. Okay, bigger tip I go. Or at least go on to my small spade. Ooh, there was some residual solder on my spade. Just going across all the pins and pushing them down. Probably gonna have to go back in there with my copper braid. Go ahead and use the other side. All right. Go again. Well, going across with the spade like that seemed to do Lord's work. That one's still loose. And I'm gonna have to make sure none of these are bridging. I'll do that when I get this last one. Where was it again? Is it this one? Ooh, I mean, which one was it again? I keep forgetting. And that's all that was needed. Looks like all of my pins are good. Again, I just need to verify that none of those are bridging. And then I'm going to have to really clean the hell out of it. Good old flux. Nice and sticky flux. Probably going to have to let some IPA really just soak in on this. A little piece of flux residue between these two pins. I'll try and scratch it off. It would be a good chance to go across with a needle just to verify that everything is solid. My big blunt dental pick. Not to say it would deceive me, but is that one not attached? I can't tell. It seems okay. I'll be probing this very carefully just to make sure that it is all in the up and up. And it may just be that's a ground pin. Not to say that I don't want it like unattached, but it's not the most important thing in the world. I'll of course attach it, but okay. So multimeter, water bottle. Just see what I'm working on now. So, let's go multimeter continuity. And then I'm going to try and do the pin and the pad right below it. Hopefully my needle probes are small enough that they can go in there. So I'm going to try and touch like that pad and then the top of the needle. So this looks like it's a ground because shorting to that, and that's also a ground. That doesn't seem right. Why would it? It might have a low impedance to ground, perhaps? I would assume that all these, like, center pins that aren't connected to a trace would be ground. It might just be... No, am I just stupid? Okay, yeah, no, I'm just stupid. I don't know why this one has a low impedance to ground, or a low connection to ground. That could imply bridging. I mean, or it could just be that's how it is. And I don't have any reason to believe it's bridged. So let me just... I'm getting a little sidetracked here. I need to actually get back to my original test. Just making sure that the pins are attached. Which this one is. And actually, I don't even know if these two pins are attached since it is ground. Yeah, and it looks like I did a good job. Looks like everything is connected from what I can tell. Of course, the true test will be the test. But I do want to keep cleaning this board. I want to make sure it is nice and sparkly. So I'm going to turn off my microscope. very eager to try this. Make sure none of that flux climbed into the inside of the port. It's 91%, so it should dry moderately fast. I just gotta kind of disperse it. I use my heat gun on very low and just help evaporate everything. Very low, I mean like 200 degrees. Not enough to actually do any. Definitely not the prettiest. Like, those pins are still sitting up just a bit. But I think they are making contact. I mean, if that extra, like... How much would that be? Like 0.01 millimeter signal distance? That is significant? I don't think so. I'm gonna find out pretty soon. I'll find out pretty quickly here. So I don't want to do anything too terribly crazy. But I do want to at least sort of set it back together. Enough so that I don't have to worry about it immediately overheating. There's no thermal paste or anything on it, so I'm going to have to be really careful. I don't have a... Well, at least fit in the port nicely. Before I get too terribly far. I don't know if it needs a fan. I'm just gonna plug it in. It'll at least help in the cooling process, or it'll help cool whatever it can, which may not be that much without the thermal paste. I do need to get my capture card going here. Oh, here it is. And then the little front panel connector. All right. Well, it still turns on. That's good. That's my capture card. Ooh, I think it just shut off. I wonder if it's overheating. Fan goes immediately and then it shuts off. Okay. I didn't think the APU heated up that quickly, but it's entirely possible. It must be really sensitive. It's not even that hot. The end goal is to put a phase change thermal pad on here. I just don't want to get too terribly far ahead of myself until I can actually test this. I do need to know where the... I do have to look up a iFixit guide. I need to know what orientation the X clamp goes on. Points away from the front panel connector. So I think just for now, I'm going to put just a smidge of thermal paste on. Because it's behaving like it's overheating. Fan jumps immediately to max. This should be enough for testing, though. Just a little bit of thermal paste. Oh, actually it doesn't matter. Edge of the board. Yeah, it's pointing this way. Okay. I can just go off of the shape of this, like, cage. Right, that's on. Good mounting pressure. Enough that it shouldn't just immediately overheat. Fan is in. Try this again. Now with proper cooling. Probably should have put in the front panel before plugging it into power, but... Ooh. Hmm. So on my monitor, it's grabbing the input and then dropping it. Grabbing it and dropping it. It's not being represented here on my capture card. It might not even be connected, or my capture card might not be registering here on my PC. Sometimes the Elgato software can be a little finicky. So there's obviously still an issue. I can grab another HDMI cable just for my peace of mind. Now I gotta find out which input that is. 3, I think? So it's detecting it, it's just not seeing it. Or there's no signal being pushed through. So I guess that would imply that my pin job is not as good as I thought it was. Or there's flux all over my pins. Let me just try it one more time. So I have it on my capture card HDMI again, which is a known good one, so if it doesn't work on my capture card but it works on other HDMIs, that would be a problem. On HDMI 1, right? Yes. What I'm doing is lifting the HDMI plug up. Maybe see if I can force a connection. Okay. I'll go into resoldering those pins again. It's like my monitor's grabbing the input, like it's detecting that it's getting a signal, but then it like almost times out. Very curious. Because I don't think I need the other PCBs in order to boot this thing. I'm pretty sure I know that as a fact. So it's not as though it's looking for the other PCBs and it can't find them for some reason. So I'm going to go across these pins again and just see if it's entirely possible I missed one. Or is that a bridge right there? Oh, those pins aren't attached. That one especially. So I need to find a way to sort of push these pins down and get them soldered in. Because they are sort of bucked up. Actually, I should have another dental pick with a bit of an angle on it. There we go. Hopefully... What the hell's on the end of this pick? Wow. I need to flux everything up. Even with a minor hiccup, I still think this is going incredibly well. I didn't tear... oh, the things I've seen in videos of HDMI ports, just where they're ripped. Just all of these traces are just ripped off the board. Thankfully, I mean, it being a little lifted up in the back, I'll take that over just retrace work. Ugh. My pick's gonna draw on a lot of heat. That actually might work against me here. And bend these pins a little over so they're sitting up top their respected pads. Whatever this second pin from the top is, it's a stout little thing. Probably not soldering because I can't get the solder to melt. Okay, let's see about this. Not worried about this pin. Yeah, it's still not. It's a stout little pin. Again, it's just. And looking at sort of that big, like, trace that it goes off into a via. This little, like, double via thing. Should be no surprise that it's drinking heat so effectively. I may have gotten it this time. If not, I'm gonna have to kind of go in with a different method of attack. To make sure these two aren't bridging against each other, I am not going in at the best angles. This pin and this pin. Okay, they aren't bridging. It isn't bridging, and it seems to be shorting to its pad. So I think that's good. Let's try this again. Feeling a little more confident about this one. Okay, I'll preemptively bring up my capture card. What I almost might want to do is reheat the port again. And just try and see if now that I added all that solder, it'll help drag it down. I'll just have to add solder to the other, or add flux to that other side of the port, which I didn't do last time. Which is probably why those studs weren't liquefying as easily as they should be. All right. Now I think it's doing the same thing. Until I'm fully confident with the HDMI port, I'm not going to begin searching upstream. But I mean, there's always the chance that it's something upstream. I'm more likely to believe it's just the HDMI port. Just my shoddy job. Right now I'm getting nothing. I am on HDMI 1, right? Yes, I am. Now it's not even detecting that I have it installed, or I have an HDMI source. It did for a second, but then it cut out. Okay, nothing. So I'm gonna go back to my original strategy and reheat the board and see if I can just see if I can get that connector closer to the HDMI port closer to the board so those pins aren't bucked up like they are. And I mean, my port job could be fine, and it's something like a redriver chip that went when the port originally broke. But until I have more evidence, I'm not going to view that as a viable issue. Well, not quite yet, at least. So I need to get a really good angle on this before I get going. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to do that. I want to look at specifically those pins that are like very misaligned. Those ones on the ends. That's a good image. But I need to flux everything up a little. Okay, that's a really good image. That should help me determine okay. Start at about 350 and sort of climb up from there. Like, especially if I can twist the port a little to line those pins up, but I'm more interested in pushing it down in the back so it has a closer contact with the board. Or else I'm going to need a lot of solder to compensate for the gap, which is what I tried to do, but it was not working for me all that well. .450 seems to be about the magic spot to heat the board up. Come on, baby. Now we're talking. It's a little hard to tell. Not having 3D vision really does suck. But it does at least look like it's a little bit aligned better. I need to look at it with my eyes. That looks a lot better. Okay, cool. Let me get the camera reoriented here in the spot that I like it, so it's not upside down. That looks a lot better. Ooh, sticky, sticky flux. Now I gotta deal with that again. Okay, the pin poke test. Okay, seems fine. But I mean, I've said that the last 2 times I've done this, so how it seems and what it actually is can be 2 completely separate beasts. At least looks like it's sitting down a little further than it was, at least from what I can tell. So it could just be maybe they were electrically connected, but if the connection wasn't that great, maybe the joints were really small. That's where it was causing issues. Okay. Got some flux I need to work off from the back here. And this is, of course, something I can clean up a lot better later. Oh yeah. You know what they say, third time's the charm. Still need input 1 on my monitor. Cold boot. I know it takes a little bit. It shouldn't take too long, though. It shouldn't take this long. I should have a display. But my capture card is adding a variable that I want to eliminate right now. Oh, I'm still getting nothing. Absolutely nothing. On input 3. I can try my third HDMI cable, see if that offers any difference. One, 2. Here's 3. No, still nothing. Power it off and power it on. We do like a hard reboot. I don't think this will do anything. But it's worth trying. Oh, it's input 2, automatically swapped, so there is a signal going through, but it's not the full display signal. So right now my monitor is just black, but it is detecting it. Well, time to look at that port again. Very odd. You know what? I'm gonna try something. I'm going to plug all of the subboards in. Whoops. That didn't harm anything. Tried jamming the HDMI cable in the expansion part. The expansion card slot. Just gonna plug in all these subboards, just on the off chance that just for some reason it needs them. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but on the off chance. No, I would have gotten a display by now. Sort of doing the same symptoms where my monitor is grabbing it and then it's dropping it. Alright. That's all I need to see. Keep scrutinizing my port. I really feel like I did a pretty good job this go around. Like, I'll bring up my microscope image. Like, I see a couple of those pins, like, it is still a little raised, but it is not as bad as it was. So maybe, I think those two pins kind of in the middle to the right, they might need just a touch more solder. But that might be about it. That's literally about the only thing I can think of, unless it is not a port issue. And I'm focusing too much on the port, and it's actually a component issue. I may regret this, but I'm gonna go a little heavy on the solder. I'll come back to that one. The second to the right pin. The royal pain. Oh, that was the wrong fluid. Looking for flux, not isopropyl alcohol. Well, I'm just gonna have to sizzle it off. Can work with that. An exercise in pure concentration and focus. And maybe even futility. Kind of going in at a whack angle. Am I making it worse? A little bit. Really don't want to put wick in there. Oh my. I didn't even realize my capture card, not footage, was in the way. I was so close. Oh, this blackened flux. Like syrup. This flux will suck to take off. It'll come off eventually, but it might need some persuasion. And a lot of soaking. Going in with a plastic pick and just sort of doing the initial rough removal process. Every time I think it looks good, there's always something that instills an amount of doubt in me. Like how this pin on the end doesn't look like it should be attached, but I have no reason to believe it isn't. Other than visually looking like it's a little off. My dental pick's too blunt to get in between the pins. I'll get it eventually. I think I'm going to give the port another try. The flux shouldn't matter. Shouldn't create any issues. Let's look at it again. At the most. I mean, those look like pretty solid connections. The exception of these 3 pins on the end, the sort of the black sheep. My little tiny troublemakers is what they are. I'm just gonna try again here. Try and see if I can get a little bit of solder on them before, without bridging them again. What did I say about bridging? Ah. I'll get it eventually. I swear. I'm way too persistent to let this go. That's my one strength, it's persistence. Ah! Thought I had all the solder off my iron. Oh, brother, here we go again. Well, thankfully I kept that wick around. There, how about that? Try that again. This isn't exactly going how I was expecting it to go. However, again, I didn't rip traces. And I don't think this is beyond, like, my ability to fix. It's just a little unorthodox. And a lot more time consuming. Ooh, and it's getting... Almost got all that extra flux residue out. Almost looks like... To double check. Kind of looks like that pin. Go super zoom and enhance. Looks like it's bridging over to that via cluster. Well, I mean, a multimeter will determine whether or not that's actually true. But it's the pin on the very end. Oh god, this will be an angle. It's this pin. I think there's just a tiny solder bridge right on the end. Like just the tiniest bridge that I see. Cooking the debris off of my iron. Wait, where did all that solder come from? Must have been further up on my iron. Oh god, here we go again. Oh, can't see. That may have done it. Actually, I think my copper wicking. Okay, I think that may have done it. It's a little hard to say. Okay, it did do it. Good. Now let's get that cleaned up again. Then maybe fourth time's the charm. If I don't get it this fourth time, I'll probably just call it good for just a little bit. I'm getting very hungry. And I would like to go eat something. I wasn't expecting to be working on this for this long. I knew it would be difficult, but not 3 hours difficult. Again, I am very persistent. I will get this, so help me. It still looks bridged. That still looks hella bridged to me. Multimeter says it wasn't. But the angles I'm going at are not the most confidence inspiring. Should be able to go off this via. Multimeter saying it's not bridging. I tend to trust that. I'm really curious as to what I'm seeing then. Oh, there we go. So some residual flux. That looks better. I see green in between them. Okay. Now, not to be tooting a horn, but I'm fairly confident those are good. Those are all those pins are now good. Get it at an angle that I can see better. Go as sharp as I can with my microscope. I mean, those look on there. All of them do. So I need to have faith that this will at least do something. Alright, well, guess I'll try it again. Fourth time's the charm, yeah? Clean off my tweezers. Try to do this as I notice it, so that I don't go to grab something and then they're sticky for some reason. I should have seen something by now. I am fairly confident it isn't the HDMI port. Or that the destroyed HDMI port that I got perhaps shorted something upstream. Because I'm fairly confident that my HDMI port's in. Like, I know of all the things that could be wrong, the HDMI port is the different one. But I don't know exactly what a broken HDMI port would have done. Because the little carrier piece inside the port was broken, so it is more likely than not that pieces shorted together. Try another HDMI port, which has a direct link. It doesn't go through a capture card, which might be a little flaky. I know these HDMI ports work. Or these cords work. Okay, I'm not getting anything. So I need to check all of my connections on my port again. The best that I can, at least. This is where an HDMI tester would really come in handy. And might be worth me looking into investing in. Because this would dispel all of my doubts. Oh. That little piece of thermal putty. Don't worry, little one, I'll get to you. Like, is there a bridge further up in the port that I accidentally made? Like, even though that pin, the third pin from the right looks a little crook-eyed, should be connected, right? Yeah, everything's in solid. Has to be. Okay. Now I just gotta scrutinize every single pin. Still a bit of an awkward angle. Can I come in from the top? Is Via shorting the ground? No. Must have been touching the side. All of my pins are reading connected. So strange. And none of them I think are shorting together. This one still kind of reads like it's shorting the ground, but it could be I'm touching the side. Yeah, I'm touching the side of the port with my probe. It's shorting to the pin, but it's not shorting to the housing. Oh, so this might be a little more complicated. I mean, all of these little components are still here. They got cotton swab fibers on them, but I didn't harm them. What does the inside of the port look like? Did I just gum it up with flux? Which I suppose is entirely possible. I'm a bit scratching my head on this one. Because I really can't. I don't think I can fault my HDMI port job anymore. I don't have any evidence to suggest that. But I mean, I'm not really producing very solid evidence. I'm just gonna clean the port. And my cable along with it. Okay. Try it one more time. And then I'll just have to look into it a little harder. Maybe really like... I'm gonna leave it out of its case this time, just in case... I don't think this is the case, but just in case the metal housing is keeping me from plugging that HDMI cord all the way in. I don't think I don't think I have it mounted that egregiously off that the metal shielding would be preventing it from plugging in all the way. But I don't want to rule anything out. I'm just going to have to be very careful what I touch. What will be hard is I won't be able to probe the HDMI port with my probes because the power supply is in the way. Nope, doesn't look like it. I mean, I didn't do anything different. That is so weird. I mean, this is somewhat symptomatic of a failed hard drive from the original Xbox Ones. I think that HDMI cable's damaged. My blue one. Or that other blue one I just tried, that Amazon Basic one. I think I pushed a pin back. Well, that's not... Unless this port is just like eating HDMI cables. So this one's fine. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not getting a display. It's just hanging on a black screen. Well, I'm gonna have to leave it at that. I'll keep probing into it, maybe do some searching to see if this is an IC problem. It's possible that that damaged port just shorted, and I'm gonna have to start looking component level, because I don't think it's the port. I'm pretty fairly confident with that port install, but I can keep scrutinizing it to just see if there's something wrong with it. I don't think there is. I really don't have a reason to suspect it. I kept looking at my HDMI port and I just couldn't see anything wrong with my solder job. Nothing I was doing felt wrong or nothing looked out of place. So probing, reflowing, poking pins. I just couldn't see what the problem was, but my issues were persisting. I still had this black screen. So I did two things. I first looked up the schematics, which I guess didn't really help me, but I kind of probed through the HDMI system and hoping that it's not the retimer chip or any type of IC that was maybe taken out by the broken port. So another thing I did was that Amazon HDMI cable did have a pin that was pushed in, just completely bent up. I tried bending it back and ended up snapping it out. So I turned the other end of the Amazon Basic HDMI cable into a HDMI port tester in a rudimentary way. I have all 19 pins jammed into this breadboard, hot glued down, so I can probe each of the 19 pins on the HDMI port, which, I mean, you can't necessarily see because my fume extractor is blocking it, which is currently not on. I took it off again. What I found when I plugged this in and began probing, pin 1 and pin 2 were shorting together. That's not supposed to happen. Let me bring up the schematic here. This will take me just a second here. A little big. So HDMI port, the connector is right down here. I need to shrink this screen because it's way too big. And it won't fit my screen. So this is the HDMI connector right here. Pin 1 is like a communication line that goes directly to component U40. Goes on pin 30 of U40. Pin 2 is ground. And there's these like little, like, I think they're, I don't know exactly what they are, but I've looked them up to be like ESD, like filters. These things also go some type of like diode that goes straight to ground. So there were two possibilities here. And I also looked up the like standard HDMI pinout. Pin 1 is like a data line. I'm pretty sure the white is a TMDS data 2 plus is what pin 1 is, and then pin 2 is ground. And then I was looking it up. I looked up that number on the diode. There was, or this one, M1015860. There was a iFixit post about the Series S relating to these small components, and this person saying it's a TVS, like a filtering diode of some type that I can find, should be able to find on something like Mouser DigiKey. I I mean, it's entirely possible that the broken port that I took off originally took out that little diode. I find that extremely unlikely because when I looked at the broken port, I have it right here. The pin 1 side is actually good. It's the opposite side that's actually bad. Let me bring up the actual broken port again. So here's the broken port that I took off. And you'll see that it's mangled, or like the plastic bit was like broken out. And I'm like, okay, because those pins are free floating, how likely is it that those pins touched and just surged onto one of the ICs? If it didn't take out U40, it took out something else. Well, when I orient it this way, which it corresponds with the first, like, I don't know, pin 1 is right there. It's right on the end, right on the far right hand side. And that's actually where the HDMI port is not damaged. Now, this might just be purely this might not even matter where the damage is located. But if I look back at the schematics, if I were to look at like this end of the connector, like pin 14 through 19, those go to a different component. Those go to component 21. So if pin 1 and 2 are shorting together, there's only really about 3 possibilities here. Either U40 is cooked somehow. The little filtering diode for line 1, the EG695, is completely fried, or completely open and shorting directly to ground. Or what I think is more likely is, in my soldering efforts for putting on this connector, pin 1 and pin 2 bridged somehow deeper in the connector than where I was applying solder. I find that also rather unlikely, but that makes the most sense. Now, I just took it off. I let the board cool. So now I want to actually, since the connector is now no longer part of the equation, I'm going to check pin 1 and 2. If they're still shorting together, then there is something else upstream. Either that little filter has been cooked or something else. And I mean, that's entirely possible that when I plugged the HDMI in the first time, I blew it, but I kind of find that unlikely. So I'll have it on resistance right there off the side of my screen. Here's pin 2, which is ground, then pin 1. Aha! So it was a shitty connection. Or it was a shitty connector. Not a shitty connector, I think just a bad job. Okay. Let me look at the connector. Just to see if there's like a bridge somewhere. Or maybe just me taking it off remove the bridge. So like, because the metal of these connectors, they 90-degree angle up, 90-degree angle over, and then I think out to the port. That's a lot of metal for solder to climb. And I mean, I may even see it right there. Look at that. So I think that's what was causing my issue. Just a little bit of solder got exactly where I didn't want it to go, deep in the connector where I couldn't separate it. That was bridging number 1 and number 2 together, shorting it essentially to ground. Interesting. How did that happen? Not entirely sure, but let me try and remove it now. And then I'll resolder this back on and see if it's just, first time was, or my, beginner's luck did not really win out on this one. Okay, it's gone. I don't see anything else, so I'm gonna get it back onto the board. And I guess making my little like HDMI checker, I really prepared my HDMI checker just in case I needed to take voltage readings because of just where that HDMI port was. Let me turn these off. There's actually no way I could put a my probes on those HDMI pins. Like if I had to start tracing upstream, the power supply would just get in the way. And that tool was handy. It had me find my short because it's kind of an awkward angle in there to get that. So, I mean, people do this upside down. Why don't I just do this right side up and just let the port just sort of fall into place? I really don't like heating up this board as many times as I have, but I don't know how strong this connection is going to be with the heatsink on here. I don't want to bend the board if I don't have to. We'll see how strong this Omnivice grabs onto it. Not really that well. I can just hold it, I guess. The board shouldn't get hot enough to singe me or anything crazy. So let's try this again. What would this be, like 9th times the charm? I don't want to get a camera going too. Might have to actually go on my right side. I don't really like having that over here because this will be helpful to track the pins. I need to do a readjustment here. Actually, I don't need it in my Omnivice. What I can do is just set it down. Because if I have to sort of keep the board off of my side of my desk. Alright. Thankfully this motherboard has been very generous to me, and it's not singeing or warping. Either I'm getting better at this or it's giving me a lot of concession, or it's being very generous. Trying to do my best to put a little bit of weight on it. Just so it's making contact with the solder and it will heat up. Currently hasn't gone through the through holes yet. It should just like clump through. Come on, baby. Get warm for me. Make a bigger mess for myself. Oh, I see that mounting leg liquefying. Need those two rear legs to liquefy and I should be able to press it down. Well, in a matter of speaking, press it down. There's one. I'm actually going to press it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Heat off. Oh, that should look a lot better, actually. Because I did it, I think, a better way. Instead of trying to, like, there are experienced people who can take these ports off and just slide the new ones back in, and it all just works. Maybe that comes with experience. Maybe it's not for me. I'm kind of bumping my camera as I try and get this as much flux as I can off. Let the board cool down a little. Well, it's good to know those little filters are not fried. Okay, so he thinks a little warm. This thing does drink heat, but I don't think it's as bad as an Xbox Elite controller. I think this drinks heat in the way you expect, where those Elite controllers don't. Well, let me see if my resistance, I still have enough resistance between pin 1 and 2. Or actually, it's just pin 1 and ground. Ooh, board's still toasty. Oh, well, I need to resolder everything. Right, well, since it's warm, this would be the time to do it. Because I was trying to bend those pins up off the board, but I really didn't like doing that. That just felt like I was just causing too much unnecessary damage. Are any of these pins even attached? Gee whiz. Alright, well, yeah. I'm gonna have to put solder back on. This time, hopefully not throwing a bridge all the way up in the connector again. Or down the line to where I can't reach it. That was a lot. You know what? My problem started when I started using my little iron. As much as I like it, and I think would have done okay. I need a big lad to help me. Have to get some help for that last one. I always keep pitching my solder wick before I'm done using it. Or when I think I'm done using it. Oh no, I have it right here. Only to find out that I need it again. Thankfully, I had some forethought and I kept the last one I was working on. I'm definitely going to need a little bit of flux if I want to work on that. Okay, I can see how well that did. Try and get some of this flux worked up. When it turns like amber color like this, it just becomes molasses. Before I get too crazy cleaning up, I need to see where I'm at. See if did I finally get it all soldered down. I think I got it. As I say that, the second, like the fifth time. Well, I'm gonna put my port checker to work and actually use it this time and very carefully scrutinize every single pin, make sure nothing is shorting where it shouldn't be shorting. Now let's get this cleaned back up. And I mean, despite all the effort, all the work I'm doing in here, this area still looks good. Usually, at least in my Quest 4 experience, the more work I do in an area, the worse it looks. I mean, look at that. That looks amazing. I'm not going to go too crazy with the flux removal, because I'll work on that once I can confirm that this thing works, because if I have to take this thing off again, then... well, that's something I don't want to think about. I can kind of show off how my... well, not necessarily show off how my port checker works, because it's pretty simple. I just did a 1-to-1 on a breadboard. Oh, that's the schematic. Just want to get this stuff out of my way. Or my microscope, at least. So, using that pinout of the HDMI, I did a pinout of the... or I stripped back all the wires of an HDMI port. Did a continuity test against against the other end to identify which pins were what. So I have them numbered pin 1 through 19 on the breadboard. The breadboard's labeled, but I also just did 1 through 19 going down. So we have the HDMI port. Oh, yeah, that's got flux in it. I can kind of slurped in there. Okay, I'll have to really flush that out really good. So now it's just going to be... does pin 1... actually, I could use my microscope here. Does pin 1 short with pin 1? Does pin 1 not short with pin 2? And then I'll just go down the line to make sure everything's connected the best that I can manage. Still a bit wet from the... Alright. So, probe is in pin 1, so... pin 1 is not shorting with ground. Pin 2 is ground. I do want to check pin 1, the pad for pin 1. This is not a very nice angle for me. Let me swap it around here. Me deciding to leave the heatsink was a choice. Okay, it is soldered. I mean, I could just check for ground on the chassis. Pin 3. Pin 3 does not short the ground. Pin 4 also does not short the ground. Pin 5 is ground. Pin 6 doesn't short the ground. It also lines up. Pin 7. Pin 7 doesn't short the ground. Pin 8 is ground. Pin 9 also doesn't short the ground. Pin 10. Pin 11 is ground. Pin 12 also doesn't short the ground. Pin 13 doesn't short the ground. Pin 14. Pin 15. Pin 16. Pin 17 is ground. Pin 18. Pin 19. Okay, my scans, I didn't check pin 19 on ground, but I think it's fine. It's right here. My HDMI tester rig is telling me everything is good. Let me make sure it's nice and dry. It's not still... It should be fine. I mean, 91% alcohol should dry up pretty quickly. And I think I'm actually ready to test. And I think I'm fairly confident this will work this time. Oh, let me like actually clean out the port a little better. I don't want to spread flux everywhere. Okay, I'm way too eager. I will put it in the metal shielding. Again, I like that as a holder. So I don't have to worry about it shorting on like my tweezers if I was stupid and just placed the motherboard on top of it or something. I know my weaknesses. I feel like this will work. And I mean... I'm not exactly sure what I did wrong, but I think a combination of the port being sort of bucked up, definitely a major contributor into how solder was able to sort of slurp itself up the line like that. And I mean, I'm giving my sort of like what I did wrong when I haven't even determined whether or not the thing works, but it's plugged into my capture card. Bring up my capture card. I need to swap my source. All right. Batteries to power. Normal behavior from what I understand. Ah, would you look at that? So, this is gonna flash somebody's profile. The Xbox is designed to automatically shut down to... Oh, that's probably when it overheated. When I didn't have any thermal paste on the APU. Whoopsie. I don't have the sync board plugged in, but that's a pretty good indicator to tell me, yeah, that's fine. So the problem was some solder worked its way up pin 1 and 2 and shorted them together, thankfully. So the only thing wrong with this thing was just a bad HDMI port, which looks like I did an okay job replacing. I'm gonna spend some time cleaning this up. I do need to clean like this portion of the shell. The other bits are okay, like the fan's okay. I might just give it like a quick wipe down if it even needs it. I think I air dusted everything, like the power supply. I might just go air gun it really quick. Reform all the thermal putty. I'm going to put a phase change thermal pad on this APU. Get the motherboard dusted, clean up the rest of my flux. And then this thing should be ready for testing. And hopefully nothing fantastic it comes up and halts that progress. But that is the HDMI port. Hooray.